It's no secret that I'm a big Slenderman fan. I've gotten really into the lore over the years. My second ever video, and technically my first ever real video on this channel, was a review of the Slenderman movie. Recently, around this time last year, I did a full on, in depth look at the original script for the Slenderman movie. It appeared online, and we got to look at some of the deleted scenes that never made it into the full movie. If you're interested in that, I highly recommend checking out. There's some really cool stuff there. And after that as well, I started looking into some stuff about a Slenderman game, which rather embarrassingly turned out to be fan made and not true. So that I did two videos on that, and those haven't aged well. But regardless, I've been a big Slenderman fan ever since the whole fiasco with him started. Ever since the 8 pages came out. Ever since I discovered creepypasta. And so, naturally, after the arrival came out, like a lot of people, I felt confused that it was so short that they never did anything else with it. There was all this hype and build up for this commercial Slender game, and then nothing. It was barely an hour long, and that was the end of it. Suddenly, there was nothing. We got the book and we got the movie, but those were unrelated to the arrival. We never got anything following on from the arrival in the 8 years since it's come out, which is really weird. And I've always wondered, like a lot of people, why is this the case? And I've tried looking up for reasons and explanations over the years, but I've never come across anything that gave a concrete answer. And I thought I never would have an answer. I thought it would be something that would remain a mystery forever, because anytime, if you ask Blue Owl Studios, because they're always posting with the arrival, if you ever ask them about a sequel, they never answer, or they give vague answers. Yes, the fact that they port Slender the Arrival to every console, every platform even, it just recently came to mobiles. The fact that they're so proud of it makes it even stranger that they've never made a sequel. And, given the success and the huge love for Marble Hornets as well, it really doesn't make a lick of sense as to why we've never got a sequel. The big reason you could come up with is, well, the whole real life incidents that happened with all those teenagers. And I don't really think that could qualify as a legit reason in and of itself, because that didn't stop the movie, and it stopped the Marble Hornets comics. It didn't stop Tribe 12, which is still going on, Everyman Hybrid. These things are still going. All it really did is knock Slenderman out of the public eye. But I finally found an answer recently, straight from Parsec Productions himself, the man who created the original Slender the 8 Pages game. While looking on Reddit, I found this post that came up, and it's pretty self-explanatory. When asked about it, Mark Hadley responds by saying someone owns Slender Man, and that there was a whole awkward situation there with legal rights and ownership, and that's prevented him from wanting to do another one. And he never wants to go back to that. Apparently it must have been a really huge pain if he feels that strongly about it. So the long and short of it is, that's the explanation. And if you don't understand this at first, let me explain to you. So Slenderman was created by Eric Knudsen, known as Victor Surge, online in June 2009 as part of a Photoshop contest. But people took his creation, put their own spin on it, made their own Photoshop images and stories, and he encouraged this, by the way. And then Marble Hornets came along, and so as it developed over the years afterwards, it evolved and grew into something that was beyond what Knudsen's original vision was. Each iteration of Slenderman ended up being completely different from the rest. And so ownership of Slenderman is a tricky thing, because no one owns the whole Slenderman idea, because Slenderman is one idea made up of a load of different concepts made up by different people. So no one person could technically own Slenderman. It's a community thing, and there's been some serious debates about whether he should be in Creative Commons and all this sort of thing. It's a huge copyright nightmare. But the Slenderman that exists today that we know of, with the tentacles and the turning people into proxies, that was never the original interpretation. Knudsen's original Slenderman literally just stalked children and didn't even really have the tentacles. And then you go into obviously the Everyman Hybrid lore in Tribe 12, where he's like this deity and stuff from Egyptian times, and everyone adds their own little spin on him, and a lot of it's really cool, but it's all so different from what the original version was. Everyone adds their own creativity and spin to it. Um, then come 2016, Sony and Mythology Entertainment purchased the rights to Slenderman, and I'm not really fully sure the exact specifics of it. I don't know if they own complete total control or if it was just video game and movie rights. I'm pretty sure it's just movie and video game rights. But regardless, they acquired some form of copyright from Eric Knudsen. And that's how they were able to make the movie. And they were able to shut down some fan projects that were being funded and were being made for money. So it's still a creative nightmare, and I guess technically Sony is recognized in the law as the legal owner of Slenderman, but I don't think that fully connects with the games. I'm going a bit off track here, but back to Mark Hadley's original statements here. When you really think about it, you can understand how much of a nightmare it must have been, because The Arrival is a game based off Mark Hadley's prototype, Slender the 8 Pages. So that's his game, his fundamentals at the basic core, which is based off a character created by Eric Knudsen. The story for The Arrival was written by the crew who wrote Marble Hornets, and so there's elements of the whole idea of proxies and Slenderman having a personality and stuff. That all comes from them. So part of what Slenderman is in that game comes from Marble Hornets, so they have an ownership in it as well. And then Blue Wild Studios have ownership over the game engine, I guess, some of the mechanics and the characters. So when you look at it that way, there's like 5 or 6 different people who all have complete control over everything. So yeah, you can see how that would be a complete copyright nightmare. And when I came to this realization, it clicked for me. I was like, okay, I feel bad for Hadley, because this must have been horrible to try and figure out. Financially speaking as well, I bet there was a lot of going back and forth about money. And you can imagine when everyone has complete total control, who really has control then? It must have been a complete struggle trying to get The Arrival off the ground in the first place. So the long and short of it is, yeah, the reason Slender The Arrival never got a sequel, or we never got another commercial Slender game, is because too many people, it's because of copyright control over Slenderman, and that too many people have a say over what he is, who owns him and who owns what aspect of him and what version of the character it is. And so, in short, we're probably never going to get another Slenderman game. Not only because of this copyright situation, but it seems like Mark Hadley's permission is needed for Slender games. It seemed like for The Arrival, his cooperation was integral. And I feel like going forward it would be integral as well, because I guess maybe Hadley owns the copyright for making Slenderman games. I think that's just my guess, because the fact that Blue Wild haven't made one without him kind of shows that it must be necessary to have Mark Hadley on board in order to actually make a Slenderman product. So yeah, I don't think we'll ever get a Slender the Arrival remake. I think we will get ports, and eventually it'll probably become the most ported game of all time. But in terms of a remake or sequel or anything, unless Mark Hadley changes his mind, or unless Sony does something, we're never getting another Slenderman game. And that's sad, because as I've said in all my other Slenderman videos, I'm really big into the character. I love this mythos, and I think it's one of the few horror universes where, yeah, it can be repetitive, but there's always so much you can do with it. Even when it's repetitive, it's still exciting and enthralling and creepy, because there's there's so many aspects to approach it from, and there's almost this meta element to Slenderman as well, in the fact that he transcends media and becomes a horror in the real world in terms of real life incidents, and a literal copyright nightmare as well. So Slenderman really is a meta concept when you go really deep into it as well. So that's another reason why I'm so fascinated and enthralled by it. It's such a deep rabbit hole when you really go into it, and a bit like the stories, once you go into it, you can never come back. You're trapped forever, essentially. But with that being said, I hope one day something gets done with the big man. I hope Slenderman makes a comeback in some form. Probably not. Seems like his days are done. A shame. A character like him could really do with a grand return, but who knows? Maybe someday. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think of all of this? Have you played Slender the Arrival? Did you play Slender the 8 Pages? What do you think of this whole copyright situation? Do you think there's more to it that I missed? Do you think Hadley will ever change his mind? Do you think Blue Isle might find a way to work around this? Do you think Sony will intervene? I want to hear everything you have to say down in the comment section below. And yeah, with that all said, thank you all for watching and please subscribe. Novus Corvius out.